Testing, testing, 1, 2. Testing. Testing.
Thank you, everyone, for coming. We have some people who are just trying to get registered, so we're going to take them through the registration, and we'll be starting in 2 minutes. Would all the panelists come please take your seats up front, and we'll be ready to start momentarily. Thank you for coming. Good evening. Okay. Can you see how many people they still have to get through registration back there for me? Okay, just give me an idea, see if they're moving as quickly as they can. Can you call him, please? I haven't seen. If he's not here, then you should get him. And I'll let Senator Bader come sit next to you. Are we ready? Are we ready to rock and roll? Are we? An expectant hush over the room here this evening on this October the 18th, 2021, here in Pontiac, Michigan. We're here in our very own Bowens Center, our senior center. And as you see, is having their parking lot redone after a lot of time and expectation and waiting. So it was supposed to be gravelled in by today, but they didn't get it quite all done, as sometimes that happens. But the seniors are happy and expectant for getting this done after a long way. We're happy to deliver that, and we'll get the whole thing done for them finally at last. Right, Abdul was working on that. Our engineer, thank you for that. But we are here today for the first live town hall on the American Rescue Plan. At least I assume that's why you're all here. Everybody's interested in this $37.7 million that has come to the city as part of the COVID relief plan passed by Congress. And it is our obligation, our opportunity, our responsibility as a city to set forth a respectful plan for how, have a seat, Glenn. Okay. Okay, have a seat. I know, we'll take care of that. Respectful plan to spend this money. And I see a lot of you are interested in just how we spend that $37.7 million. So first, I would like to take the opportunity not only to recognize the people from Mighty District 1, all right, and the people from Mighty District 2. There's some others who are also invited to come. Anybody, these are open, but we particularly wanted to divide them up so we had a chance for people to have some real interaction with what's going on, be able to ask questions, as well as to hear from our panelists who prepared some remarks for you, as well as to really have some exchange about ideas. This has been great to do, to have stakeholders who are involved in community engagement. We've done this in my 8 years as mayor in so many different ways. We did that with the master plan. We did that with our economic recovery plan. We spent a year and a half working together. We did that over a weekend of CNU, charrettes, who helped us decide how we would do and we develop our downtown and our central city area, right, Senator Baer? You were there with us as well. And so we're doing it again now as we have this $37.7 million. So that's a lot of money. And as people heard about it, and we've known about this award since February, we didn't know we were going to get $37 million. Back in February and March, they announced that we would get 5.8 million, which wasn't as much as we needed to get. And so we had a number of people who worked with us in the legislature to say Pontiac deserves to have the same allotment of money as cities of like size in the United States. So with the help of our senators and our other federal and state legislators, we were able to get Pontiac declared and I signed the waiver that Pontiac is declared a metropolitan city for a year so that we can get the same level of allotment as other cities our size in Michigan. So that went right to the Secretary of the Treasury to get that done, but we got it done because you can be a lot more transformative with 37.7 million than you can with 5.8. That's what we're here to talk about today. Now, this is going to be a series of town halls, and I thought the best way to give everybody a chance to participate because we're going to let every citizen have a way of expressing themselves and having a say in how we spend this money and get ideas. So tonight was the first live one. We did one by Zoom already, and District 1 and 2. Just so you can tell your other friends in District 3, 4, and 6, theirs is going to be October 21st, and that is going to be at the Ruth Peterson Center on the north side of town. And then we're going to have one for District 5 and 7 together. We're looking together the districts, but that place is to be determined still. And then we're also going to do one for nonprofits particularly, and that is going to be hosted by the Open University Pontiac Partnership, and that's going to be at the center, Student Center at Open University on November the 6th. So we're also going to do one on smart city infrastructure. So that is going to be announced very shortly. So we want to give a chance for everybody who wants to have a say in how you develop a plan to have an interaction in doing that. And then we're going to take all this interaction and take it to council. And I've asked for council to have a retreat so we can say, this is what people want. This is what they need post-COVID. These are the eligible expenses. This is the kind of plan that the city needs to have. Now, get Alexander, please. I'm going to have our program manager come in because we'll help to set this up. She's going to tell you a little bit about the outlay for the evening, but I just wanted to give some introductions. And everybody got, I believe, as you came in, a copy of the summary. Can you give me one of those right there? Okay. A copy of the summary, the frequently asked questions sheet that we did. And yes, that looks like this. And this we did to give you an overview, to summarize this plan, multi-billion plan that the Congress allotted to the cities and states and counties. And it just summarizes what they did in Congress. And this was done in several thousands of pages that we've summarized into just this one page for an easy read. And you'll see the eligible expenses, and some of the things they say in there is that the way you use the money has to be in some way be related to COVID relief. That's what this is about. So we've kind of summarized those here. We'll also have some breakout groups and chances for you to give your ideas And you'll see we're color coded around the room here. And we'll talk a little bit about that after you have a chance to hear from some of our panelists who will give you some information about how this American Rescue Plan works. So that's what I wanted to start with, but I also wanted to introduce some other people that are important to us because they're the people who have helped us get this far with many of the legacy projects we've done, as well as getting the American Rescue Plan money. But they're also the people who are vying for our attention to see that they're going to carry us on forward from this point. But first, I'd like to introduce you to several of our elected officials for town, but particularly our own state senator, Rosemary Bear. All right. Never recognized. And what I've asked her to do particularly is when we talk about $37.7 million is quite a bit of money, but the county has a huge amount of money. Where's our county commissioner? 364 million, right? That county has a huge amount of money. The state has even more, an enormous amount of money. And they haven't decided yet how they're going to allocate that. But we do know that in many states and many counties, they're allocating in such a ways to help to leverage the city money and build projects that they can increase the money by getting an allotment from the county and or the state. So that's also what we want to do. We're talking to our various legislators as well as our candidates who are here to see how they're going to handle that. This plan, although money doesn't have to be spent in 2026, it has to be incurred by 2024. And so to do things that are transformational, it takes a while to plan, to think them out, to make sure there are things that have a long-lasting impact. Now, there's some things that don't have a long-lasting impact, and I thought, I was at a conference once and I've been to a number of these to find out how American Rescue Plan money should be used. So somebody asked, well, what if I just give everybody in my city a share of the money? And so I did math and I said 62,000 people in Pontiac, and it's gone up even during the pandemic, we went up 62,000 people to 37.7 million. That's $608 per person. And what if we just gave everybody $608? All right. For one thing, that wouldn't be long lasting because we'd all spend it, right? And that wouldn't give long lasting impact in the city. That wouldn't be transformational necessarily. And besides, you can't do it because it says right here, that was the answer that when the person asked the question, that you can't use this COVID relief money for anything that's essentially lowering taxes. And by giving everybody an output of money, that's essentially lowering the taxes that they would have to pay to the city. So that was a good idea, but sorry, won't work. So we already thought of that one. So nobody put that up on the board as your idea, okay? Because they already told us we can't do that. But I would like to have other elected officials who are here to stand. Thank you for being here, whether you're in District 1 or 2 or not. I did see Councilwoman Megan Schramsky. Is your counterpart here at all? Who's running for District 2? Any other candidates who are running for office in the districts? Okay. I want to especially announce our former state representative, Tim Grimal, who's here as a mayoral candidate. And Tim is District 1, so I'm sure he's that mighty District 1, so I'm sure he's going to have some ideas to share with us. I saw Rosie Richardson, is that you back there? Okay, so Rosie Richardson is our school board. Any other elected officials? All right, very good. So we particularly want to hear from all of you as we move forward. At this point, I'm going to introduce to you our Alexandra Borngesser, who is fairly new to the city staff. As we were getting a grant to reform a grants department in the city of Pontiac. You know, city of Pontiac had never gotten grants before from foundations and now has got an interest in Pontiac and Pontiac Progress. So to spearhead that effort, I hired Alexandra. She's had a lot of experience with that. And she was our point person for setting the program for tonight's town hall. So Alexandra, would you take the floor from here and tell us what we're going to do for the rest of the evening?
Sure. So we're going to have a really exciting evening. First, we're going to start with some discussions from our panelists, hear about their background and expertise in funds such as this and some of their ideas from the city. We have Darren Carrington here, who is going to talk about permissible uses and things of that nature. We have Vern, who's going to talk about some of the proposed projects. And then we have Donovan, who's going to talk about some of the work that's already underway. So that way we're not being duplicative when we're getting into our breakouts. Following the panel, we intend to go through some of the questions that you all have written out. If you haven't finished writing your question, feel free to do so and submit it to Felicia. She's in the back. I'll be going through and reading the questions and directing them at the appropriate panelists to be sure that they're answered. Following our discussion and our question and answer session, we'll all be getting up and having an interactive activity. We have, you'll notice 6 tables with brightly colored tablecloths around the room with different little placards on them. These each have signs that say smart city, restoring neighborhoods, infrastructure improvements, public safety, and business and jobs. And you'll be able to get up and use the sticky notes that are left at each table to write your ideas on and put them onto the table. So we can all bring them back, lift up common themes, and have a little bit of a discussion, but also so that we can take them back to City Hall and start to go through themes from residents and make sure that your feedback and your input is included in any sort of strategic plan that's put forward. So that's the plan for tonight, and I'm so grateful that you all came to be a part of this process.
All right, so before we get started, Alexandra, I just want to make sure everybody has a chance to get the full view of this exercise we're doing today. Now, everybody can ask a question or 2 or 3 questions. So that means, does everybody have a question sheet? Okay, I don't have mine. I'm District 2, so I got to get mine too. So does everybody have one? Because I need one too. And Felicia, you're going to be picking those up. You're going to be walking up and down the aisles. Wave your hand, Felicia, so they can see you. Okay, just hold it up in the air and Felicia will come pick it up, because after the panelists speak, we'll be answering your questions. Now, you mentioned that people will have a chance then to give their ideas. And that's the part I think a lot of people are interested in. What are your ideas for coming in? And how do they express their ideas? How is that exercise going to happen, Alexandra?
So you'll be able to take the sticky notes that are on the correlating tables. There are many piles of them and some pens on each table. You'll be able to write your idea that pertains to that specific bucket of work, that's what I called them, and stick it onto the tablecloth of that color. There'll be a staff member whose work directly relates to that issue space or that type of city service who you can ask questions to and engage in dialogue with. And you'll be able to engage with the folks around you as well, your neighbors. You can move from station to station, putting your ideas on all these various boards. And this will allow the city to have all of your feedback in each of these buckets of work so we can use them to build out a strategic plan forward.
Alexandra, you talked about buckets of work. Now, I think by the buckets of work, you're also referring to those strategic priorities that were put on the invitation that are also on the sheet here. So where did we get those strategic priorities from? You want to talk about those? We didn't just take those out of the air, right? We talked about those in terms of not only what are the eligible uses described by ARP, and then we put those eligible uses, and we matched that with what have been the strategic needs of the city of Pontiac. As we've talked about that for the last 8 years, and all of you have told us about that, we've lumped them together into 5 strategic areas of priority that we are interested in, and that's what we have grouped the tables and the discussions about. And then we added one that was also an eligible expense under the ARP, and that's smart city. You know, Pontiac has not yet started to take the major steps to lay the infrastructure for smart city and for broadband. So that's certainly an eligible use, and that's something that is in the horizon for a lot of cities. And we want that to be included as one of the 6 buckets that you may have ideas about. So we just want to make sure you understood what were the parameters and why we had come up with these priorities. All right. So Alexandra, we're going to start with our first panelist.
That's correct. So we'll start with Mr. Darren Carrington.
All right. Darren Carrington is the finance director for the city of Pontiac, and he's going to talk about
eligible uses and some of the parameters around the American Rescue Plan dollars and how much is coming to the city in what way.
Good evening, everyone. Again, my name is Darren Carrington, and I'm the finance director for the city of Pontiac. Want to welcome everyone here. It's actually a very important endeavor that we're embarking on here. So, excited to see the turnout and look forward to hearing everyone's thoughts and ideas as we move forward this evening and move forward through this process. As has been articulated, the city got an allocation under the American Rescue Plan, or ARP as we refer to it, of $37.7 million. About half of that, $18.8 million, we've actually received that money from the federal government. This program is through the Federal Department of Treasury. So we've actually received half of the funds already. We got those back in June of this year. And in June of next year, June of 2022, we expect to receive the second half of that. So the money has already been not only allocated, but we've actually gotten half of the cash into the city's coffers. And money's been placed into a separate fund, and we will be very transparent in terms of how it's not only spent, but how it's tracked and allocated. We have a dedicated standalone fund that will be utilized for the ARP funds. Additionally, when we look at, American Rescue Plan, as I'm sure you know, it was designed to address the negative impacts from COVID, both the health and economic impacts. And so that's kind of the core of what the purpose of the program is, and serves as kind of the foundation of how the funds can be spent. There have been about 5 areas that have been identified in terms of spending the money. Again, the first is looking at the negative health impacts. And each of these areas are generally pretty broad. This is still a fairly new program. We're still getting guidance from the federal government, but by and large, I would say that for the most part, there is a fair amount of flexibility in terms of specifically of how these monies can be used within the various categories that have been laid down by the federal government. So the first area is looking at the negative health impacts from COVID. That serves as a pretty key area of the legislation, as well as, I think, an expected use of the funding. So everything from testing to prevention of dealing with the pandemic, education, all those things could fall under that particular use. The second area I would identify would be, again, this is again a pretty broad area. It's dealing with ways in which to counteract the negative economic impacts that are associated with this pandemic. So that can take on a number of different things. For example, you could be talking about grants for small businesses, grants for entrepreneurs, some type of relief for businesses that suffered. It could be job training due to increased unemployment, helping people get back into the job market. It could be education for people to enter into the job market, but anything that would, again, be related to counteracting those negative economic impacts. So when we look at the pandemic rising from COVID-19. The next 2 areas are probably a little bit more specifically related to, the city of Pontiac and local governments. And the first is to replace any lost funding. As you know, many governments, saw a negative economic impact as it related to revenue, whether it was tax revenue, because people weren't going out as much, or people were changing their behaviors. This program allows governments to recover any lost revenue, and there's a specific formula that we have to follow in order to replace that. The fourth area is pay that goes to workers, essential workers or hazardous pay, to help offset the increased risk that a lot of workers incur in order to carry out their day-to-day activities. And then the last area is a somewhat broad area again, but it gets into infrastructure, primarily focused upon water and sewer infrastructure. Roads directly are excluded, but I think indirectly communities are looking at ways that can be, monies can be utilized for that purpose. But it's when we speak of infrastructure, we're talking about water, sewer, and as the mayor mentioned earlier, information technology or broadband is another area that can be utilized under the infrastructure. So those are some of the key areas that I think kind of make up the program. The thing I would really stress is, these areas are fairly broad, just in context of normal government grant programs. So I think that's a good thing. We do have, we have to make sure that we follow these principles. And even though we receive the money, we do have to file regular reports to ensure that we are consistent with the way in which the program is laid out. So I'm going to pause there, but certainly if there are any questions in terms of any of these particular categories and how the money can be utilized and moving forward, don't hesitate. We would love to hear from you and provide responses. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Darren. Next, we have Vern, who will talk. It is on. Next, we'll have Vern, who will discuss some of the projects within the city that have been proposed or potential projects that the city has already begun to look at.
Vern Gustafson is our senior planner in the city of Pontiac. And that's why we asked him to speak on this topic. All right.
Well, thank you, Mayor, and also Darren. Gave us a great introduction, and I won't belabor what you had just said, but I had the opportunity to prepare for this. I had a number of conversations with former colleagues and friends of mine in many large and mid-sized communities throughout the Midwest and also on the East Coast. And the takeaway that I learned was three things. The process is complex. And basically how I would describe it is basically building the plane as we fly. And it does require to change that mindset in regards to prioritizing competing programs, initiatives and ideas, and to simplify it even further to what Darren was referring to. Think of it in regards to two buckets. One is for relief and recovery for those who have been hit hard by the pandemic. And then secondly, the second bucket would be investing in economic, social, and also physical infrastructure to establish a bright future. I think that's two things we need to really consider as your ideas are being disseminated throughout and as we move forward. And I think it's important to say that from what I was hearing and understanding is that we want to make sure in 10 years from this date, when we appropriate all the dollars and monies throughout various pots of money, we need to, did we merely just spend the money or did we invest it? And I think that that's something you need to consider also. And then I think it's important, and what I did hear was some top, I would say, how many do I have here? I got about top 13 projects that were somewhat similar in nature in regards to from these former colleagues and friends of mine that work at municipalities, work in planning, economic development, and community development. One being improving vacant land within your neighborhood that could be either city-owned or county-owned, and taking those vacant lands to either allow for that surplus of land to be given to adjacent neighbors, or taking those vacant land areas and turn them into little parks or gardens, home repair to the seniors and other low-income residents, definitely homeowner rental and also rental assistance, homelessness assistance and services. And with that being said, what I was hearing the most out of all of that was talking about housing counseling in regards to how to provide the residents with the proper information so they could go from a rental situation to a homeowner situation. And definitely with that included with that would be job skill training, specifically in regards to the public health sector, workforce development, food assistance, definitely programs and facilities for the youth. And talk actually about 3 communities I talked to, actually mental health and domestic violence came to the top. Neighborhood beautification, that could also include parks, youth and recreation centers, and lastly, arts and cultural investment and also physical improvements to those type of facilities. That kind of concludes in regards to kind of my perspective in regards to what I found.
Thank you, Vern. So those are Vern's ideas. One of the things we find as we look around, and I'm sure we'll have lots of ideas for this room, is that everybody has ideas about how we could spend and how we can perfect the community. So that's our Vern coming from a planner. If you talk to our DPW engineer, he'll come up with his whole list and he'll spend the whole $37 million fixing our roads and sidewalks. So it all depends on the perspective. So everybody's got a different perspective here, and we're going to pay attention to that. One of the things, this has been going on for quite a while. As I said, the awards were announced by the federal government. We knew we were going to get this money back in February of this year. So a lot of cities have had a chance to think about this already. In fact, at a number of the conferences that I've attended, including the Michigan Municipal League, which is the largest association of cities, municipalities, and townships in the state of Michigan. There are many cities there who've already planned out their spending. So, and very carefully thought out the things that they've been trying to do and didn't have money for, and now have the opportunity to do it. So that's what I want to have Pontiac citizens to have a chance to do, Senator, to be able to think through how we can make this money transformative. So before we get to the next speaker, I did see a couple of other elected officials would come in. I do want to recognize those now. The other, Alexandra Riley, if you'd like to stand to be recognized, our other mayoral candidate, also District 2. We did have, thank you, James Johnson. I saw you here, my Congresswoman, Brenda Lawrence. Representing Brenda Lawrence in the House, great. I also did see the other District 2 candidate, Brett Nicholson. Where are you, Brett? Thank you for being here. All right. We have, and how can we, Maddie, what are you hiding over there? Maddie Hatchett, our County Commissioner Emeritus, also our school board chair. And I saw also Melanie Ruffleford. Where are you at, Melanie? Also a candidate for District 1. All right, I just want to have a chance to recognize people as they came in so you can see your candidates and they can see you. All right, Alexandra, who's next?
Great. Next up, we have Attorney Matt Gibb, who's going to talk with us about business development, job creation, and different ways that we can leverage these dollars in coordination and partnership with the county or the state or other partners. So why don't we switch spots? Or we're going to switch spots.
Hi, everyone. How's everybody doing tonight? Good. It's beautiful outside, and it's so great to see everybody here tonight. A lot of you have a passion for Pontiac like I do, and the mayor, and couldn't be more happy to be part of the team. One of the approaches that I've tried to think through in my head about this funding source, the American Rescue Plan funds, is how do we leverage these funds so that they don't just become a one-time expenditure? Meaning we get creative and we say, okay, we're getting this nice allocation of funds, and well, we'll spend it on these 6 things. And then after we spend it on those 6 things, well, we made some good impact, but did we really leverage that in a way that we identified some needs in our community that we could utilize these funds in a way that makes more funds? So what do I mean by that? One of our concerns that we have in Pontiac from an economic development and a business growth standpoint is exactly that, is business growth. What are the barriers that we look at as far as why our small and medium-sized businesses, particularly those businesses that have been founded here in Pontiac, that have been part of the community in Pontiac, many of those have been minority-owned businesses. What are the barriers? What are the challenges that they're really truly facing? Is it that they can't find workers? Is it they can't access capital appropriately? Is it that they don't have the resources maybe to write the type of business plans that would make them qualify for other opportunities? Maybe they don't understand how to bid for certain things from a government level. They put in proposals that maybe just missed the mark because there's not those types of resources that are out there. And so how can we look at the ARP money in a creative way as a community and start to ask those types of questions? The questions that are really focused not on, well, you know, is there $10 that we could use here that would be impactful? And I bet there is. I bet we could come up with 100 different ways to spend $1 million that would be very impactful. But if we start to ask the questions that say, if we took 100 businesses in Pontiac, particularly in our minority communities, both the Hispanic community, the African-American community, and others that are here that are so vibrant, we have so many entrepreneurs here that really just kind of do their work and do their job. And if we start asking that question, well, what is the barrier And if the barrier is, well, we can't get access to capital, how could we use the ARP money? Well, we could use it in a way that said, well, let's create a loan guarantee fund, or let's create a fund that allows entrepreneurs within the city of Pontiac to capitalize on these monies and solve some of their credit issues. Because one of the problems with small business right now is getting credit, is having the ability to go to a traditional lender and get access to money. You need money. You got to buy equipment. You have to hire an employee. You have to do those types of things. So eligible activities of these funds certainly are spending the funds and doing good proactive things. Maybe we give some to our nonprofit community in this area. But I really encourage all of you and all of us to think about how we could leverage this, creating capital funds, creating opportunity funds, creating a fund that would be a loan guarantee where a business could come in, work with specific counselors at the county, at the state level, certainly with the good staff here at the city, and create those resources that multiply the leverage. And so say if we took $5 million of this money and that became a fund that small business entrepreneurs then could borrow against, and the city becomes the guarantor through that fund of that credit obligation that's going forward. And we partnered and we leveraged those resources. I know Alex has said, make sure you talk in your brief remarks about how do we leverage resources with other agencies. Well, certainly the county has a significant amount of resources for us. I mean, can you imagine if we had a process, which part of this money was to help entrepreneurs, particularly minority businesses in the city of Pontiac, that they could utilize the resources of the county through the Small Business Administration 7A or 504 program. And we not only guided them to that program, but we said that we're going to provide a small capital guarantee resource for that loan that you would get from the SBA. And then through that, we additionally partner with the county and we say, we know that you have $6.1 billion of ARP money, and we know that a lot of that's going to go into your small business community. If the city were to pledge an economic resource towards those businesses, would the county likewise pledge an enhanced benefit? I bet they would if we asked them. So I just encourage everyone tonight, and as this goes forward, to really be thinking, you know, you say outside of the box, well, throw the box away, all of those different things, but really be thinking about the challenges that we can overcome, not by writing a check, but by getting creative in the way that we might leverage a portion of this money. Now, that might be this fund that I'm talking about, but it also might be that we're providing specific and detailed counseling services, but not counseling services to businesses that would be, well, this is what you should do. Counseling services that would really attack some of the core problems, some of the hiring problems that they have. Maybe we partner with the Pontiac jobs pipeline that the mayor's created. Maybe we do those types of things. Maybe we have additional resources through Michigan Works, which the great work that Jennifer Llewellyn does at the county level. And we're doing gap financing, not in job creation, but in what some of the other barriers are, meaning transportation for workers, meaning the ability to have appropriate training, those types of resources. All of those agencies around us in the county level present us unique opportunities to say, we want to take a portion of this, leverage it to a greater identity for our small business community. So those are just some of my thoughts. I apologize for being late. I thought it started at 6:30, Mayor. I apologize for that. I am a recovering COVID person, but I'm completely healthy now. But your brain doesn't work good after you have COVID. So I apologize for being a little bit late. But Alex, Mayor, I'll give this back to you.
That's why I don't want to get COVID. I want my brain to work. I have to work on all gears here. And I see, thank you for all of you who are abiding by the COVID restrictions, and just be safe and careful. And just remember that it's still with us, and we still have to make sure that we do what we can to defeat it from getting a greater hold on our population. So thank you for your patience and the observations we had today. So Senator Bear is here, and I talked to her before. I know I'm catching her offline a little bit, but I want to just see if she would care to give any remarks about the leveraging the state money, because the state has a lot of money from American Rescue, don't they, Senator? Tell us about that. And just a few minutes to kind of, okay.
I didn't expect that. I appreciate it very much. Thank you all for being here today. I am as excited about this as you are. This is a huge opportunity for us all. So the state is getting right now about $6.5 billion from ARP funds that we're combining with $3.5 billion of additional revenue at the state level above what we had expected in our budget. So in total, we have $10 billion for investing in our communities over this next few years. That's a big pile of money. So what we just have had some really great ideas here already. And I'll talk a little bit about the perspective that I bring into this. So being able to integrate and coordinate with the county, we are lucky that we have one of the wealthiest counties in the world, I think, right here. And then we have all this extra funding at the state level and now almost $40 million here in the city. We absolutely can build projects that will leverage things at all different levels and really give us a huge bang for the buck if we think it through and make a good plan. So right now in my work in the state government, I'm spending a lot of time working on infrastructure. So I am on the transportation committee. I'm also on the environmental quality committee, and I'm on the education committees. So when you add those, you look at those things and you look at where the money goes in the state, most of the money goes to those places. In infrastructure, when we look, and it's right in the ARP funding allocation, allowed allocations, we are very focused on water right now. So we're working with the county right now on some affordability work. The state is funding some amount of lead remediation in water pipes. So one of our top priorities going forward is getting rid of all pipes and fixtures that put lead into people's drinking water. It is way overdue, right? Thank you. It's way overdue. So it's a top priority for us at the state. Some of the federal monies and more money will be earmarked specifically for this. So we're going to really focus on Pontiac. We already have had conversations with the county on how do we partner with the county to make sure that we put Pontiac at the top of the list and we get every single thing that we're allowed to do at the state and county level and get that fixed as fast as possible. Now we have enough money coming in to be able to go faster than we thought before. So what the city could do with some of this money to leverage that work is start looking at the last step, because the state can't come in your house. And most of us have lead fixtures. Many have lead pipes inside their buildings. I mean, there's a lot of older buildings here in this city, and we could help. We could have a fund, for example, that was a grant fund for homeowners to help you get your own house in order too. Because we can get clean water all the way up to that entry right at your house. And that's as far as we can go unless we work together and we get inside the house as well, right? Let's get that clean water all the way out the faucet. So everybody drinking water is getting clean, safe, healthy water. And we're going to do it in your schools, by the way. Make sure that every school building has clean, safe, healthy water for our kids to drink too. So that's a huge priority. There are other things that we're doing, and I know there are issues here in Pontiac in certain parts of the city where there's problems with water coming into the houses, water coming into basements. We have a lot of infrastructure plans that are being worked now at the state level to start fixing some of those water, stormwater, wastewater issues that we're having across the state. So that's another way to partner. We can do the same kind of project. The city could partner and be a part of a funding stack. Maybe the last piece inside the house is a little check valve that goes in the basement that keeps the water from coming up. Those are like $10,000. That's not everybody has $10,000 laying around, but a little help for that last piece that goes in the house, that could make the difference between a really happy place to be and an uncomfortable one. So those are some good examples. So I will take the infrastructure piece because I spent so much time working on that and say that, just like your business development conversation was really good too. All of these areas that are identified are all really interesting when you think about big change, right? Big change. Let's make all the water safe in the whole community. Awesome.
So well said, Senator Baer. That is another thought, and actually people are going to put that in some of their buckets here. All right. Before Alexandra introduces the last panelist today, we just see everybody's writing your questions. Pick them up, and that's where we're going to go next. We're going to be answering some questions and then give you a chance to really also tell your ideas and deposit it along these tables here that we have set up. So is that Donovan next? Donovan? All right. Donovan Smith is our junior planner in the city of Pontiac, and he's going to tell you, although we're getting this money for these 5 buckets of eligible expenses, He's going to tell you what we've done in the city so far and what we have planned to see. We have been working and putting dollars to use, and it'll be good to get other dollars as well. Donovan?
All right, thank
All
you,
right.
Mayor. Thank you, everybody, for coming out tonight. Donovan
You gonna go
Smith.
over there? To the-
uh,
Okay, okay.
Yeah, so what I want to briefly share with you is the city has been active in some of our programs and creating some of the impactful changes that we're talking about establishing today. So I kind of want to share some of those with you and kind of allow you a chance later to see where we do some of these changes and what districts and areas those are in. So we do have our community development block grant program. And there are kind of three main or three smaller programs we support with that bucket of money the city receives. The first is our sidewalk improvement program. And those are areas designated by staff that need improvements to the sidewalks. They're damaged, corroding, or wearing away. And these are areas designated that we take those funds and actually make repairs to those areas. Our second program is the demolition program. And since 2007, we've demolished upwards of 900 blighted, burned, deteriorated, or damaged beyond repair homes that don't really add to the value but take away from it. So we've gone and demolished homes owned by the city, owned by the land bank and other sources, and actually have those removed. And you can see today there are values related to home ownership and property values that we are seeing a rebound as a result of being able to do and operate programs such as those. So when we think of impactful changes, we're looking at things that we can do today that we can see the benefit of further down the line. And then the last program I want to share with you is our parks or neighborhood empowerment program. We currently have a park system of 32 parks. And over the past 4 or 5 years, we've established over and allocated roughly $350,000 of our community development block grant funds towards park and long-lasting improvements in our parks. These range from new playscapes, concrete work, tree removals, pavilions, play fields and ball fields, and sign improvements, all within our park system. So what we provided once we get moving around and into the activities is on to your right, there are several maps that indicate districts, and you can see where those demolitions have taken place in your area. You can see where sidewalk improvement programs are established or ongoing in your area. And then you can also see which parks we've used our CDBG funds for your record, and also just to give you an idea of what, like I said, those improvements we can make and recommend and ways to use these ARP funds. So with that, I look forward to working with the public improvement and safety table, and we can get started.
Thank you, Donovan. And I think Donovan is pointing you to the map. We have one for District 1 and District 2 to show where we've been spending our money from CDBG and other resources and grants we have gotten for infrastructure repairs and also street repairs. Got major street and road repairs from the grants we have gotten. One of the things he mentioned was CDBG, which is now handled by the county. That was something that was turned over by the emergency manager. One of the reasons I'm bringing back a grants person is because we were able to get a $100,000 grant for the city of Pontiac to bring back our grants department. So we're working with a couple of consultants right now through that grant, because I want to bring the money that the federal government sends us for CDBG and other grants back to the city of Pontiac. And that's what we're working on being capable of doing, because we pay the county 20% to administer for it. And I want to cut that out. So we're doing that, and we're going to have that study finished. When, Alexandra?
Well, it's an ongoing process. It's a tiered process.
Our current
but our current-
schedule is to be
The
done.
current schedule is after the end of the year.
Yes, right. That's what my goal is. All right. So moving forward, we have questions now, Alexandra?
We do,
Okay.
yes. So how I'm going to handle the questions is there's several duplicate questions. So if I see one that's already been asked, I'll just let you know that that one's been asked. And I'll direct them at the larger group, and anyone at the panel is welcome to answer. So first, We have, can the funds be used for seniors for home improvements and other services such as lawn and snow removal, as well as minor home repairs or installations of ramps and things of that nature?
I'll answer that. I'm very happy to do that. That is actually on the first page of the summary we did for you. Not only can it be done, but I'm very happy to have some ideas myself. I'm going to be filling in some of those posted notes. But one of the things I proposed, and this is brought about by the fact that the home program, which is one of those programs that's run by the county for us right now, used to be a grant program for home repairs, and they changed it to loans. And these restrictions got so high for that so few Pontiac people have been able to qualify for those loans. Less than a fourth of Pontiac residents who are in that eligible category. So I want to use this ARP money to set aside some money to now turn this back to grants. And that's very much an eligible usage under this ARP money. So yes, it can be used. Not only it can be used, but it's specifically mentioned as one of the suggested uses under the aliquot of improving our neighborhoods.
Great. And Mayor, this is another question that I think you can answer is how might these ideas that are generated and collected from the town hall here today and the various others that we intend to have, how can those remain citizen driven and how will we use this information to build a plan forward?
This remains citizen driven by the fact that you are engaged. Citizens have their voices heard when they come and be goat. You're here to be engaged. You're here to have your voices heard. We plan to take your ideas back to City Council, as well as to share them with other people who can effectuate them and make a plan. But in the end, you as citizens have to make sure that your elected representatives carry forward what your wishes are. You've got to be involved and you've got to follow this through. So that's just my opportunity to you, as well as saying, yes, that's what this is all about. This is your money. This is for every citizen in the city of Pontiac. And that's why you need to have a say in that. And that's why we're having these town halls, right, Claudia? That's why you're here, right? Okay, thank you.
Okay, and this is actually a question that I think can be directed to someone who isn't a panelist, but Ken, if you're open to it, you might want to answer this question. What attributes define a smart city? Are you okay with that, Ken? Sorry to put you on the spot. Ken works in IT for the city and he's working on the Pontiac Smart City Initiative. What attributes define a smart city? Can broadband infrastructure be tackled at that scale? And what efforts are being envisioned? What sort of leverage opportunities are there for smart city? Sorry, Ken.
You're operating our IT system. This town hall is also being on Facebook Live on the city Facebook. Ken also runs our website. He'll make sure it's on the website, as well as we have a YouTube channel. So there'll be many opportunities for people who weren't able to come today or want to see the discussion will be able to see it after this meeting. Ken is also one who's introducing some of the smart city improvements to City Hall, 365 Live, right?
Oh, yeah.
We're going to the cloud at City Hall. So Ken, talk about what a smart city is.
Well, a smart city is one that uses the internet structure to be able to communicate for like traffic control, police enforcement. But also one of our goals is we find that Pontiac is an underserved community as far as internet access to low-income families. And so three things that we found out is one, Pontiac does have a high poverty rate. Second of all, 25% of Pontiac homes have no internet access whatsoever. And huge sections of Pontiac have no access to high-speed internet at all. I was shocked to see a map that showed, especially in the southwest and the north, southeast and northwest quadrants, there is very little access to high-speed internet. So part of being a smart city will be incorporating all those aspects into providing better services to the citizens of Pontiac.
Thanks, Ken.
Okay.
So there's a couple of these where I'm having trouble with the handwriting. So that's what my face is. Perhaps, Darren, this is for you. Where exactly does all of the ARP funding come from? Where is this money coming from?
said where's
Where's the money coming from?
So
Yeah.
funding came from a federal law that was passed earlier this year, signed into law by President Biden. Under that act that was passed by Congress, the House and Senate, and there was an appropriation that was included by Congress. So the money was simply appropriated by Congress. The money was appropriated by Congress via the American Rescue Plan Act, and that act provided the direct funding for the money that has been allocated and received thus far.
Thank you, Darren. And this one kind of tags along on that. How soon will the 37.7 million be deposited in the city if it hasn't already been?
So half of the money has been received from the federal government, and it is in the city's coffer. So this just under 19 million, about 18.8 million has actually been received. That money came in June of this year. So that money is reflected on the city's books. As I mentioned earlier, it's placed into a separate fund. And additionally, the second half of the allotment of $37.7 million, we're expected to get that next June of 22.
And the money, according to the American Rescue Plan obligations, is that it must be incurred by December of 2024.
Correct.
So although we have until 2026 to spend it, it has to be incurred. What does incurred mean by the federal government standards?
Essentially, incurred means that it has to be, a plan has to have been designed and approved. So let's say there's a project or a program, it has to be in place and approved by December 2024. You have an additional 2 years to actually spend that funding. And so those are the two important deadlines, that December 2024, and then 2 years after that, which would be December 26th.
Okay, so we've had the money since June.
June,
So
correct.
we're approaching half a year already
Yes,
that we've had it. So
Yep.
we got to get to going, right? To
Correct.
Come up with some kind of plan and how we're going to get to a plan.
yes.
All right.
So to keep with that theme, I've pulled a couple other questions. Someone did ask about time limitations, so thank you for answering that. Once we identify projects, how quickly can the money be utilized? Are there, time limits, or are there any sort of constraints around how quickly we can implement some of these projects based on the funds?
Depends on the project, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Depends on how extensive it is. Some of the things can be put in place almost immediately because we have the infrastructure for doing that. And I'll start out with that, and then others on the table will have, as you talk about other projects. But some of the things are needed right now. Okay. COVID-19 is the basis on which the funds were granted. And there are a lot of people who have needs from COVID-19 right now. We're getting into the winter season, and there are people who could use money to repair their homes and their roofs and their sidewalks right now. Those are things we can put into place as soon as we can get the check written and get the contractors out. So those are the programs that we've thought about for a long time, just didn't have the money to execute. Now we got the money, we need the plan. So those are kinds of things. Some others take a longer period of time, and Vern, you had a couple of things that were going to take a longer period of time. So talk about how you strategize and go about setting a plan. Matt, you talked about the revolving loan fund, for businesses. small
That's
businesses
very
that could
true.
use right
And
now.
Matt can speak about that, but I'm just saying in regards to other nonprofits that could support, and particularly in regards to providing counseling and other health services and workforce development, because we are looking for those partners that would provide us with that right program that would ensure that the money is spent wisely and effectively over a period of time. And that is probably a very important aspect that we'll have to deal with as we move forward.
Matt, I see a number of business people who are here. You talked about that revolving loan fund for businesses. How long would it take something like that to get started?
Well, the devil would be in the details, Mayor, and for our good business community. If the city were to undertake those types of creative programs, meaning we're going to take a portion of these funds and use it to leverage other things, you would just have to create the parameters around it, right? You'd have to create the rules. and have an understanding of what would be the eligibility criteria. Now, this is where it's important, Senator Bear and others that could help us with the connectivity we would need at good resources from the MEDC or the strategic fund, or certainly my former colleagues at economic development at the county. And so you'd be creating the practical parameters around eligibility. And by doing that, you would be creating not only a program that could leverage these funds, but then you would be creating a program that would be a legacy permanent program here in the city. Those types of things that we don't have right now, where we're not providing very specific guidance towards our small business community, while creating the parameters around utilizing these funds, Mayor, allows us to create a program then that we could seek longer term funding. We could look at grant funding. I know Alex is building this department and doing such a great job. So that's really the timing of it. So could you move quick? Sure, you could move quick. Would it be 30 days or 60 days? Probably not. It would probably be 6 months of really, really good, proper planning with the launch of a program like that.
So I know that is one question. In fact, that when you have an amazing staff like I do, it doesn't take as long as in some other places. So I do want to commend all the staff that I've worked with. Happy to have them. Some of them have been here quite a long time with me. Some have been newer as we've added more staff and more capability to city government. So I just want to commend them. And this is the actual opportunity for me to slip that in. It's been a privilege to work with every one of them. They are professional, they're diligent, and they are hard workers. So that's why I know that they can do the job. All right.
So one of the last couple of questions, I've created little buckets that are have not already been addressed. Says, with the ARP funds being one-time dollars, it's important that we spend them in ways that invest in Pontiac residents for the long term. Are we permitted to invest these funds in youth recreation centers under the umbrella of public health, and in funding low-interest loans for Pontiac-based small businesses? So Vern, I'll direct the first portion of that to you. Are we able to invest these funds into youth rec centers?
Yes, in talking with other colleagues and reviewing the ARP criteria, we could, yes. And then in regards to the other half of it was,
Low interest loans for Pontiac-based small businesses. And I
Yes.
think, Matt, for the most part, you've answered that.
Yeah, and I would encourage the community when it comes to the youth recreation side to also think about pre-training opportunities and utilization of ARP money in the COVID impact area, which is a very gray area that they're interpreting this, that you could be looking at this of saying, could we apply some of these to create pipeline opportunities for our young people? I know the mayor's done a great job of creating scholarship and other things with companies like Williams, but imagine if we took a portion of this money and we dedicate it towards really preparing our young people in a way that they were exposed to career opportunities. They understood those career pathways that were going to be available to in 3 and 5 years from now, and that we allocated these funds towards that. I mean, you could create a really dynamic program specifically towards our youth.
and I would second that, because you look at youth in regards of how that transformational type of aspect, it's not just about youth recreation, it's about other types of programs and education and scholarships and workforce that really can kind of dovetail into this enrichment campus that the mayor has been working on for several years.
Great. Thank you. So we have time for one more question, and then we do intend to type all of these up and use them for our FAQs and kind of compiled with the various other questions we get from the other districts. So the last question is about infrastructure and snow removal, street sweeping, those types of things. It was a common theme through here. Vern, can you talk about some of the ways that these funds could be used for building out the infrastructure, repairing sidewalks, and making them safer for folks who are walking around our neighborhoods?
I think that that's critically important, and we all understand that. And I think that particularly in regards to building capacity in a way through various grant funding, that we could utilize some of that in regards to DPW to get the right people out here at the right time in regards to making repairs, snow removal, and so forth throughout the year.
All right.
Thanks.
So there are many more questions here that we'll get a chance, but I do want to give a chance. You sat here and listened to a lot of people talk. We want to give you a chance now to the ideas, and I think that's why a lot of you are here. So I'm going to have Alexandra explain to you how these different tables work.
Okay, so we have, like I said at the start, we have different tables set up around the room with brightly colored signs and tablecloths. And we're going to have a staff member at each. So if your question didn't get read out loud, now's your opportunity to ask the staff member who's here as well, who can help answer it. And we also want your feedback. So we will have our Restoring Neighborhoods and Citizen Relief table that Vern will be at.
What
We have
color? What color is that?
that one is,
Pink.
it is pink. We have a
It's over there.
infrastructure improvement table that Abdul will be at. He's a city engineer, and that table is orange. We have a public safety table that Donovan will be at, and that table is yellow. We have business development and job creation that Matt will be at, and that table is blue. We have a Pontiac Smart City initiatives that Ken will be at, and that table is green. And then we also have a purple table that's here for ideas that you feel like maybe don't fit into those buckets, and I'll be there and you can come talk to me. I would like for you to take a sticky note, write your idea on it. There are pens on the table, and stick your sticky note directly to the tablecloth that's on there. The staff member who's assigned will be there to answer questions, have conversation, engage in dialogue with your neighbors, and we'll be able to take this feedback back to City Hall and start to put it into common themes and share them with the other districts that will be participating in this process as well.
And even more importantly, we want to allow you enough time to get your ideas that you have simmering. So we will reassemble in how many minutes, Alexandra?
We have 20 minutes for this, and I hope it's okay. We did start a little late to allow everyone in,
Okay.
but we have about 20 minutes for this activity.
So are the staff people each one of the tables? Darren, where are you? Okay, just raise your hands. Who's in this table? Vern, raise your hand. You were at what table? Want to talk about your idea for? Alexandra, you're over here at purple?
Yep.
All right, now what you should do. Come back. At the end of the session out here. Not the time, it's all right. It's okay. Really busy with this right now. No, we'll talk about that. Hi. Yeah. I'm trying to bring it back. Oh, you had your fundraiser? How did it go?
I had to leave my fundraiser to come here. Now I gotta go back. But, how you gonna go? Yeah, it's still going on.
We're gonna bring this back to order about this minute. Just gonna get a chance to go around. I don't get a chance to introduce you. Well, I've been here for 50 years, so I'm not gonna. Get all that. You did that. I may want to call you about that. Write your name and address. Okay. Hello. Yes. Okay.
But it doesn't address the main question is that we have homeless because nobody can live on $14 an hour. We have homeless, educated. We have kids that can't even reading who are still dyslexic. And all this, it's so wonderful, but it all starts with my money. Education, education. I'm a teacher, okay? I was a business for my whole life. I went to college in '73, and I was on the road. I heard it, okay?
I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Huh?
I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm leaving because I'll say something, I'll be sorry. You know, there's got to be money for education. And nobody, me, myself, I got one. It's child care, which is $14 to $1,600.
All well said and done. And I'm an advocate like you are for putting more money into education. Our kids are our future. I'm not like you. But we have this money. We think that we can use for certain things. So we start with this. We start somewhere. Not to mention we should be working in other places too, but we can do that. I grant you. I grant you that.
I did. Because his parents need the money. But really allowed 6 children have kids.
What made the middle class? Unions made the middle class. Yeah.
I understand that people are rebelling. At $14 an hour, they can't put the child in daycare for 6 years.
People want to be heard and what their needs to be. So this is just a drop in the bucket, I grant you, but it is a drop. So we're gonna do this for the rest. Not to mention your other things, a lot of us have to take care of. I do it wholeheartedly. Thank you for coming. And
Okay,
if you have an idea or two, leave it.
I have one idea. Okay.
Keep that too.
And, Yeah, Dion.
Hi, everyone. We're going to wrap up now. If you want to make your way back to your seat.
Panelists, would you bring your best idea up here? And everybody, we're going to close down our tables and have you come back so we can share some of the good ideas. Abdul. Two minutes. Panelists, please come back up to the head table. Matt. Ken. Where's your tablecloth? Bring your tablecloth. I want to make sure we capture all the notes. Bring your table, fold up your tablecloth and bring it up. Fold up your tablecloth and bring it up. Alexander, are you getting the tablecloth? Bring the tablecloth.
I will, yeah.
Somebody fold up the tablecloth and bring it up.
I'm not. I'm going to
That's
put
what
inside of.
Fold up and bring them up and down.
Just one.
I don't know that I want to bring them up. I'm worried that
That's your
they're all
best
going to
idea.
fall off.
They won't. Fold them up inside each other. All right, we're going to hear some of your good ideas. Everybody would like to reassemble in 2 minutes. Mr. Grimo, come on over. We're going to reassemble here, all right? Thank you, everybody. One minute, we're going to, Councilwoman. We're going to reassemble now so we can hear some of the good ideas. It's going to be late, okay? I'm just calling everybody to come in. Donovan. Burn. All right. All my panelists would come back up front. Matt Gibb. All right. If anybody would like Alexandra, are you at the head table? All right, everybody. No, it's 7:30 already. We don't want to, want to have a chance to have the last interactive part. So if you would all come back to a seat here. All right. We're going to start with Bern. I've asked each of the panelists if we can have your attention. We can have your attention, please. Alexandria, I know our mayor candidates are going to cooperate. Would you come back, please? We're going to draw people's attention. Thank you. So everybody can hear. All right. During this part, and I want to be cognizant of everybody's time. I know you had a lot of good ideas and a lot of discussions. Could you please join us over here? Make sure we're going to be have everybody's attention for a few minutes here. Everybody had some great ideas, and we're going to share those ideas with you. I've asked each of the panelists to take one great idea from their table and talk about it. And then if somebody had a great idea that wasn't read from that aliquot, we want you to stand up and give your idea too. All right. So this is all about sharing. We want to be cognizant of time here, so I'm just trying to run on time. We're looking for all our panelists. Alexandra, okay, you help us with this. And we're going to start with Vern. And Vern, you were at the pink table, and that was which one?
Restoring neighborhoods and citizen relief. What we heard resounding from there was connecting the youth to parks, trails, and open up a youth and empowerment center in each of the 7 districts.
Love that idea. All right, 7 districts. So did somebody else have an idea for that table over there, which was restoring neighborhoods, that was not read, that you'd like to share? Somebody want to? I see Mona Parlov of our planning commissioner. Stand up and tell us your, is that not Mona? Oh, Mona's over there. That's your lookalike. Stand up, please, lookalike, and give us your name and your idea. All right. Great idea for restoring neighborhoods. Okay. So is this also restoring neighborhoods? Okay. Blair McGowan, everybody know Crowfoot? Blair?
900 houses down, so we need some sort of program to enhance the existing houses and check valves and basements, insulation, windows, roofing, solar, and preparation for the day, which is only 30 years from now, when we buy a used solar electric car, which we can plug in and never have to buy gasoline again. So to the extent that we can develop a program for housing, it would be the other side of demolition.
Hey, that's a big one. Not only restoring neighborhoods, but also smart city. That covers a lot of buckets there. One more for the restoring neighborhoods bucket. What's your name? What's your name? Hi, Angela. Okay, thanks for coming. Good idea, Angela. We have Vern, we have 7 historic districts in Pontiac, and our downtown maintains a historic nomenclature. So very good. All right, our second table, let's go to Abdul Siddiqui, our city engineer, and he was at the table for infrastructure. So what was a good idea that came from your table, Abdul?
All right, so there was a lot of discussion, well, several stickers there about completing the Clinton River Trail connection through the city. That's something that we'll have to be creative to use these funds for. But we can definitely look into that, and we're already working on completing that connection as well. We'll be coming to the public soon about that as well. But there's one idea that was here that falls straight in line with the guidelines that for ARP, and that's renovate the old sewer system. And that's something we can definitely, it's a very clear-cut use of the funds. You know, we have a lot of flooding issues, drainage issues. It would be a great use of the funds to inspect and clean the whole storm sewer infrastructure in the city, and then make any repairs that come out of the inspection as well. Unfortunately, we don't have water infrastructure under our jurisdiction or sanitary sewer infrastructure under our jurisdiction. That is the Oakland County Water Resource Commission that has jurisdiction there. But we do have jurisdiction on the storm sewer, so yes, we could make repairs to that.
You mentioned that we had started some of the fill the gap on the Clinton River Trail. You want to talk a little bit about what's already underway, Abdul?
Yeah, so we're looking at the primary route that we're pushing right now is along Pike Street through downtown and then down to Bagley on the west side. And then on the east side, it would go down the North Square Trail, which is an old railroad that the city purchased for that purpose. And then it would connect to Updike to the trailhead on that side. So it's a major project, probably about $13 million or so. And we're looking at developing the concepts and then coming to the public for their input. And then figuring out the financing there as well.
All right, thank you. Abdul, a lot of interest in your table over there. Also, the blue table was very popular. Matt Gibb, do you want to come forward and give us, looks like you got a handful of good ideas there, but can you narrow that down to one or two?
Yeah, Mayor, from an
Okay.
economic development and business standpoint, lots of great thoughts and ideas that included supporting greater gap financing for moderate income housing to training opportunities. But the one that really I thought was creatively unique and I think needed in our community is creating an immediate program around financial literacy. That the impacts of COVID can be felt far and wide, but having particularly our young people understanding just basic financial literacy and being prepared for that and how that translates into their opportunities within the city. I thought that was a really unique idea. So you said, what was the best one to you? I think that's the first one I'm going to think about in the morning.
All right. So a handful of ideas about business development, job creation. They have some conversation during the from the audience too. Anybody from the audience had an idea? And please tell us your name again. And you're just a new entrepreneur in the city too.
I'm here today because for the first year, I carried up this March because of the effects of the pandemic. I was being in essential business, but I'm not essentially serving people. I'm not just there to make money. I want to be part of the community. I feel I'm in business, but I am moments away from my doors being closed because of the effects of the governor's, ruling for the mandate of closing. And sitting up my staff, open and closing, being able to only serve curbside. I've seen my business go up and down, or more down and up. And I'm not looking for a handout, but I am looking for a handout. Before I started that business, without occupancy for almost 4.5 years. I don't want to lose it, not only because it's still my passion, my dream, but in doing that, you want another building that just sits dormant. I pay taxes. You want another place where there's no taxes. You talked about, not just writing a check, but investing. And I'm looking for the city to help invest in my business, to help us sustain it as doors open. But Attorney Matt did talk about, being able to get parameters in place that will help, over the long term and maybe 6 months down the road. I'm telling you now, as what Mayor said, I need this. I need help now. I've called, I've asked, and they give me 211 and said, you can call OSA. And these places have long waiting lists and things like that, and they give you help for residential, but there is no immediate help for commercial businesses. And that's what I'm saying. I've come to give my input that if we have money that's already been, allocated, and it's sitting in a fund, and it's waiting to be used, I'm a business that's saying, I'm about to close my doors, and I'm about to go under if I don't get assistance and help some kind of way. And that's why I'm here. And again, not for handout. I want to be a person that will not be a liability to the city, but to be an because I also want to partner to be able to help, like I just last month, partnered with a nonprofit organization to feed the Hope Warming Center. I didn't get time off of that. I did that at cost, but because I want to show that I am not just here just to try to make money, but I want to be a part of and connect with the community at large.
Thank you, Valencia. Okay. Kate's a brave person to stand up and say that to a crowd, and thank you for wanting to bring that enterprise to the city of Pontiac. And there's no truer COVID-19 related economic burden than we're hearing right here, which bring to the need of people who have needs right now. All right, so yes, we have another one for this aliquot, Irene Wright.
Good afternoon, again, I'm Wright, and it's not a novice idea, but until the city and the school district begin to collaborate and make sure that we're investing in our youth, either through the literacy or financial, educational, or whatever means, all of the bricks and mortar, all of the dollars will not be reinvested. We must invest in our youth.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you for that. And as we say, there's ways to invest in our youth through the ARP. We just got to phrase it the right way and make it COVID related. But we know how to do that, don't we? Okay. All right. So the next bucket is public safety, and that was Donovan Smith. Donovan, tell us about a great idea from your table.
Yes, thank you. So we had a couple ideas that came from our conversation around public safety. There was conversation around bringing the Pontiac Police and Fire Department back into the city with the use of the public safety dollars. And then we also had comments related to further improvements around sidewalks and creating an opportunity or a way for residents and citizens to more accurately get comments and complaints regarding sidewalks to the city, and then the ability for the city to address those concerns.
Okay. Very broad areas. Does somebody else have a thought for public safety? Our deputy mayor was here. I know you have an idea for public safety because you've been working on one of those agenda items. Stand up, Mark Holland. Is that you over there? All right. Your turn to speak. Okay. Tell us about an idea for public safety that would be related to American Rescue. All right. Yeah, that's okay. Applaud. Yeah, I know there's some ideas that have been waiting for. I know there's a few people who've had to leave. There was someone who joined us that I do want to recognize, and that's Julia Ruffin, a candidate for District 1. District 1. Right. Absolutely. Right. Okay. We're not going to let you give a speech. Okay. But we're not going to let you give a speech. But we did want to announce the candidates, and we thank you for the ideas. We want them to keep coming. All right. Thank you. All right. All right. The next aliquot that we didn't cover is green. And who was at the Smart City? Ken Martin. You had a great idea. I know there were a lot of ideas in terms of Smart City.
Yeah, several people kind of along the same lines want to see broadband citywide, particularly when it comes to students being able to access the internet with their smart devices. But in lines with the water and sewer, I think we could get with the county, have their monitoring devices incorporate our Wi-Fi, citywide Wi-Fi. So that might be additional funds we can get from the county.
A lot of people have been waiting for that for a long time, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Even talking about as we do our streets, making sure they're laying 5G down, anticipating where that will be. in the near future. Anybody from the audience had a smart city idea that wasn't presented yet? Angela, right, okay. So true, so true. All right, we're moving on to oh, Rosie Richardson. Yeah, I think when they think of that, they think of it citywide, you know, that's where my hope would be, that we do it citywide, right? Exactly. The library, and I've known this ever since I was a library board chair, that the lack of broadband in so many of our households meant that people came to the library often just to use the computers, you know, just to use the computers. So that was very much emphasized the fact how much we needed to make broadband more available. I want to get to the last aliquot. That was the purple one, and that is Alexandra. You are over there. Come on up here so we can see you. What idea came to the other? I don't see one in your hand. Okay. Did anybody have a other idea that didn't fit in any of the buckets they want to talk about now? Because I'm sure there are a lot. Well. Okay. Oh, Renee. Okay.
Marketing and enhancing and putting priorities for communication and promotion for their assets. I know somebody did mention something about the historic homes and some of the fabulous buildings, and I know, you know, there are, every once in a while I see something on this old house and it markets a building in a particular town, and it's not necessarily all those people right in that town that they're going for. They're going for people that some developers that might be from outside the city that might be able to take that one building, say on Green Street and Huron, that nobody seems to be going for. And it just kind of, you know, to kind of market and push some of our assets instead of just the fact that we're cheap. You know, we've got things to sell cheap, and we've got land that's low cost, and we've got tax breaks. Well, so I guess it fits kind of under marketing and promotion also. It sounds so simple and trivial, but trash and garbage and dumping, I feel like there should be a whole, it wouldn't cost very much, I don't think, for marketing or promotion with the youth and with the city about a little more pride in the city as far as trash and dumping and education as far as what people can do with their, I see some neighborhoods where I'm working and there are garbage cans that are whole families that I don't think they even know anything about recycling. So just some more of that might help us overall push the city.
I thought a couple other ideas. Thank you, Renee, for that one. I'm going to go 1, 2, 2, and let that be end. Okay, please.
So is there a way to spend some of this money, research if it's something having to do with leaks that are considered high risk? And I absolutely disagree with that. Having safer Seminole Hills than it ever was driving down or anywhere. In my auto, car went up 100
I wonder if we can spend ARP money to coach you on a bulletin board somewhere in the city, you know? What about if we did that? Okay. Thank you. Good thought. Good thought. Anybody else? I had one, please stand and tell us your name and what is your idea? Okay, that's a thought. So it is 8 o'clock. You stayed, you were very patient, very engaged. I think if that's what we wanted to get your ideas, have people have a chance to have some input. I hope we were successful in that. And I hope you came away with information that you needed. And you see that there's no lack of ideas. There's lots of ideas, broad ideas, great ideas. But we only have $37.7 million. So we have about $37 billion worth of ideas, right, Matt? If you total it all up. So that's going to be the really plan, the way you set up a plan. Got to decide what is the consensus things that are a priority that we do with that, understanding that we're going to do our best, or whoever is the next mayor is going to do their best, I hope, to leverage the money we have, our $37.7 million, for what the state has. And what the state has, 10 billion, right? Some of that they ought to share with municipalities because we have the same goal, so populous. So that's going to be a real effort to get that, so we can leverage that money and do more with it than what we can do with the 37.7, and the state as well. But I just, we said we would do this by 7:30. You got so engaged, we stayed till afterwards. Our next one is going to be for districts 3, 4, and 6. But, you know, as we said, we're not banning any citizen from the city of Pontiac. That's going to be at the Ruth Peterson Center on Thursday at 6 p.m. And anybody who wants to stay and talk to some of our panelists a little bit, get some more ideas, please feel free to say so. The rest of you, I do thank you for coming. Thank you for being engaged. Thank you for believing in the city of Pontiac, and thank you for all of what all of you do to make us a stronger, safer, more attractive, beautiful city to live in. Thank you. All right.